everyone. So let's look at another question of financial planning. Here in this question, we have to compare the five schemes from the following types of mutual funds reflecting its 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, and 15 year CAGR and expense ratio. And then also we have to calculate how much amount will be invested, what will be the amount of return generated from each type of fund in 10 years, and 15 years from a monthly investment of 5,000, 10,000, and 15,000 INR. So now let's get familiar with the term CAGR and expense ratio first. So the CAGR, that is compound annual growth rate, measured to represent the mean annual growth rate of an investment over a specified period of time longer than 1 year, and it shows the growth rate of an investment as it had grown at a steady rate each year, even though actual growth may fluctuate. So here the key features of CAGR is smooth volatility. It's represent a smooth average even if the annual growth rate varied significantly. Useful for comparison, ideal for comparing returns of different investment over the same time frame. And the one limitations of CAGR is it does not show interim performance. It assumes that growth happens steadily. So CAGR is commonly used in finance to evaluate the performance of investments such as stocks, mutual funds, and business revenues. So this is about CAGR. Now the expense ratio is the percentage of funds assets that are used to cover the operating expense of managing the fund, and it's important metric for mutual funds, index, and ETFs as it directly impact the overall return for investors. Now the components of the expense ratio are management fees, fee paid to the fund manager for investment management, administrative cost associated with maintaining the fund such as record keeping, legal and accounting fee, distribution fee, that is marketing and distribution expense, and other operating may include office supplies, auditing, and custodian fees. So the importance of expense ratio is it impacts the return. If the expense ratio is high, then it will reduce the net return for investors. Long term growth, even small difference can compound over time and significantly impact growth. Comparison tool, this helps the investors compare the cost efficiency of similar funds. So for a benchmark, we used for index and ETF, we use 0.05% to 0.25% expense ratio, and for actively managed fund it's either 1% or 2%. So lower expense ratio is generally preferable because for long term investment especially, as it means less cost eating into your returns. So for the first part of the question, this was all about your understanding CAGR and expense ratio. Now the question starts from here. The answer starts from here. Large cap mutual funds, this we have to memorize. And yeah, the expense ratio for the large cap is 1.2%. We have not to calculate the CAGRs and expense ratio. We kind of memorize it for the large cap, Nifty 50 or small cap ELSS fund. We have to memorize the CAGR and expense ratios. So these are the CAGR for large cap mutual fund for different year, like 1 year, 3 year, 5, 10, and 15. The expense ratio is 1.2%. For Nifty, the expense ratio is 0.5%. ELSS, the expense ratio is 1%. Multi-cap, the expense ratio is 1.5. And flexi-cap fund, the expense ratio is 1.3. So now we'll calculate have the future value calculation. So for this, for a period of 10 years and 15 years, और monthly investment यहाँ पे आपका 5,000, 10,000 and 15,000 के basis पे monthly investment हमें calculate करना है. So we can calculate the future value using the formula P into 1 plus R raised to the power N minus 1 divided by R. Here FV is the future value, P is monthly investment, that is given in the question 5, 10 and 15,000. R is monthly rate of return that we can calculate by dividing the CAGR by 12, and then N is the total number of investments. So by applying this formula, we can calculate the monthly investment calculating for 5,000 and for a period of 10 months. So for large Nifty ELS, we can also calculate these future value with the use of SIP table, and that is way easier than this. You have to carry your SIP table, and we can calculate the future value using SIP table.
Now let's see how to check it from SIP table, how to calculate it from SIP table. The number of years we have is 10 years, and the rate we are taking is 12. So alongside 10 and 12, the number given is 232.34. We have to multiply this with the monthly investment let's we are taking 5,000 for the monthly investment, so we get an answer of approx 1161700. So this is how you can calculate your future value with the help of SIP table. Thank you.